Welcome to the webinar, Lessons Learned, How to Create Stability in an Unstable World. Here's our agenda. I'm going to introduce the topic. Why are we talking today about stability? Then I will tell you a little bit about me and why I'm talking about stability in business. We'll go over some lessons learned as a whole right now in our business environment. Then I'll talk about 5 elements of stability. Then we'll talk about one big shift that I would like you to consider making. And then I will give you some actionable steps for moving forward. So how is 2020 going for you? I know for me, it is not exactly what I thought. Definitely not what I pictured. I think we are all having the opportunity for a great big wake-up call. I think we need to take advantage of this wake-up call. This certainly could be worse than it is. We're able to see now some things that we would not have seen without this new perspective that we've been granted. So we're only going to fail from this if we fail to learn. Who's this webinar for? Essentially, it's for anyone who's involved with making strategic decisions for your team or for your organization. So you could be a senior leader, you could be a business owner, a nonprofit leader, or even be starting your own company. My goal for this webinar is to turn you on to some new ideas about how you make business decisions, convince you that strategic planning is out, there's a new and better way to operate, and then provide you with some next steps for successful transition into whatever this future state is going to look like. Most webinars today start with a person telling you some heart-wrenching story about an obstacle they overcame and then show you pictures of their near-perfect families. I have neither of those. I came from an average American family, and I was sold the average American dream for women: get married, have kids, have a good, stable job. So what I struggled with my entire life is rebelling against those expectations and then at the same time still trying to fit in. I've always been a leader. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. It's a responsibility I never took lightly. I've often been accused of being too serious or not having enough fun. I like to have fun. It's just my own idea of fun is what I have learned. And you'll see in these pictures, there's me as a kid lording over all of the other siblings and cousins in the neighborhood. And then here's me more as an adult lording over all of my mentees and peers in our Environmental Women in STEM group that we created a few years ago. I've always been a creator. I'm an artist, a cellist. I'm a professional photographer. I started working on a book and developed my first webpage on AOL when I was only 17. I've always been a problem solver. That book I was writing was for animal and wildlife shelters as a collective place where they could write about themselves and then submit their wish lists. And if that doesn't sound familiar to you, the internet became popular right around the same time, and my book was obsolete before I even finished it. Shortly after that, in my first career job, I developed a CRM, a customer relations management database, for a international sales company in 1999. So I created a solution to a problem they had that hadn't even existed at that point. CRMs were just becoming a thing and they were not widely known. I learned how to program on forums pre-internet, before Google. And I've always been an explorer. I moved to Ireland to implement that CRM for the European sales team. I moved from hot and sunny Tampa to cold and gray Dublin with just one big suitcase. I didn't even have a coat. I had to buy one there. And I had to come back from Ireland a year later when the economy tanked, and I went back to school not for programming, but for biology. I started working for a local environmental government agency before I graduated in 2005. I got promoted several times because of my motivation and programming and database skills. The economy tanked again in 2009. By then, I had been running 4 programs, one of which I started myself. I was managing over $2 million in grants, and my 40 projects went down to 4. So when they asked for a volunteer to learn business, I raised my hand. That started my 7 years as an excellence examiner with the Florida Sterling Council, and they provide evaluations for all types of organizations to generate feedback reports and determine who will be winning the Governor's Award that year. A few years later, I found out that glass ceilings are real, and I quit my job in 2015. This was a critical point for me Before I could launch my own business, I needed a hard reset. So these are the photos that you see here. I had gotten comfortable in that job, a thing no one should do in their career or business, and I needed to regain my courage to leap and to be rebalanced. So I went across the country in a 35-foot RV, just me and my 2 cats. My goal was to make it to Yosemite, which is that photo that you see at the top. And I story mapped it with a blog and GIS and data dashboards, which is my kind of fun. And you see a picture of that there too. When I reflect on all this, there are built-in stabilizers that have kept me going and moving forward, even as I got married and divorced from an alcoholic, had to file bankruptcy because of that divorce, took care of 2 toddlers, one of which was diagnosed with a 50% chance of surviving neuroblastoma cancer at just 2.5 years old. And here's a picture of her there now. She's several years older and all is well. I have endured more change, pivots, ups and downs, roundy rounds than the average person. Much of it is self-inflicted because I didn't have direction. I didn't have mentors showing me the way or telling me what my strengths were. But what I recognize is that you need to have a strong sense of leadership, creative problem-solving skills, and true connection to your values in order to sustain and be stable. And these are all the things that have kept me redirecting, picking up and packing up and moving forward without any regrets. And as I've said before, I didn't fail at these things because I learned from them and I carried what I learned forward. Where I am today, my ex had this beautiful giant Ford F-250 truck. He kept it absolutely perfect. Big wheels, polished, all the things. And then he got mad at me one time because I actually used it to haul some dirt. I feel like our lives are like that. They're meant to get dirty. They're meant to be used. Not abused and beaten, but just used for the purpose they were meant for. I have a big ass truck and then drive it like it's a sedan. I want to fill my life with this purpose that I was meant for, and that's helping aspiring leaders to achieve, helping visionaries take action, and businesses to create and innovate and problem solve while choosing the right thing to do over the convenient thing. This is not always the popular or the fun thing. This is what I call and recognize as role model businesses, and I think we should celebrate them and promote them, and that is my mission to do that. So where are we now? We're at a time that is certainly unprecedented. It is certainly uncertain. It's perhaps uncharted, but it is not unpredictable. Scientists, health practitioners have been telling us that we have a problem with the environment, that we are out of sync, that the risk of this is going to happen. Movies, pop culture tells us this. The Great Dictator, if you have not seen the end of this movie, is so worth a watch, and it is both uplifting and sad to see how relevant it is for today. Movies like Outbreak and Contagion, which are just 2 examples of many, have told us that this is going to happen at some point. So the fact that our leadership, from ourselves all the way up to the global response, where is it? Where has it been? And there have been examples of good here and good there, but across the board, we had a lack. So where we are now, that puts us in a place where we are focused on contingency plans. And the time for this is past. If you have not already had a contingency plan to put in action, now it's time to pivot. And many, many people are working on this right now. We're coping with the new now, trying to understand what's going to happen tomorrow, what's next. This has always been the problem. It's always been very hard to get leaders to say, okay, I'm going to delegate, I'm going to be responsible, and I'm going to focus on the future. And we're confused. Most people are data illiterate. We don't understand how to read data, and that is what's coming out in all of these reports. So we're now making decisions for our businesses, and we have been making business decisions without all of the information. So imagine a report was put out from the government about how you should be responding to COVID-19, and it was only 2/3 written in the language you speak, in English. There would be 1/3 of that piece that you were missing. What if the keys are in that 1/3? That's what happens when we don't understand the data we're looking at. A few more points. Where we are now. We're gaining a new perspective across the board, people are understanding that the way we thought we were living and the way it had to be is not the way it had to be. People are, along with that, rearranging their priorities. Our customers' needs changed overnight. So if you're still rocking that traditional strategic plan and doing what you were doing a month ago, and you haven't changed in some way, you have completely driving your boat in the wrong direction. We are at a place now where we are balancing our needs today with the needs for our future, but we don't know what that future is. So I'm telling you, the only way to be effective in this place right now is to document our lessons learned. We have to write them down. We won't remember them. It's like trying to remember what you had for dinner 3 days ago. Or even what movie you watched last night, since we're all at home watching television. We have to be able to pull these things forward with us and proactively, purposefully pull them into our strategy and make sure that going forward we have addressed the issues that we ran into today. So we are all learning our lesson big time right now. It's part of the wake-up call. But again, we only fail if we fail to learn. And the only way that we grow is if we learn and change and repeat that process. Now, I want to share the things that I've seen that we are learning. You may have things to add to this. I'd love to hear them. But one we're learning is creativity is king. If you have not already built creativity into your strategy and into your teams and into your culture, you need to start doing it. The businesses that were able to come up with creative solutions to the changing customer needs are the ones who are doing the best right now, who are not struggling so hard right now. They were able to get out in front and put out those messages that were gaining attention early. We've learned that people who were not already at least partially online are way behind the curve. If you have been one of those people, or if your company is one of those companies who've been avoiding allowing people to work from home when they can, or avoiding getting services up online, now is the time. What we've learned here is that we can't avoid the future coming. We have to see it. We have to take time to see it. We have to evaluate what's on the way. And it is clear to us that along with this wake-up call about public health and all of that, that there is a digital world that is announcing itself loud and clear. With that, we are capable of more remote work than we previously admitted. It's clear that all of our excuses about people have to be in the office, we have to see each other in person, I would argue that I've seen a lot of teams getting closer together because now they're seeing a different window, a different lens. They're seeing their personal lives. They're seeing their dogs and their cats in the background and their wives and spouses pass by while they're trying to have a meeting. There's a lot more empathy going around when we're not pretending to be people in suits in the office. If you haven't noticed, people are watching, and I'm loving this. There is a lot more being paid attention to, companies who are giving and providing value and being helpful. And people are going to notice if you're not doing that. Your needs have changed. Our customers' needs have changed. We need to be shifting along with those, whether temporary or permanently, or a combination of both. It's likely that a lot of that change is not going to 100% go back to the way it was. And I will argue again, this is our wake-up call. It's not supposed to go back to the way that it was. We need to, if you haven't noticed, like the combination of remote work is also an alleviation to the problem of climate change. We have to start acting on these things now. And that is an example of us not being as responsible as we should be. We've all seen these warnings. We know these things are happening. We know they're coming. As leaders, we have got to do the right thing and go above and beyond over the convenient thing or over what everyone else is doing, and step up and be the first one in our industry to go zero waste, to be the first in our industries to not accept certain things we've tolerated in the past. And lastly, as I mentioned before, traditional strategic planning, setting your goals for 1, 3, and 5-year objectives does not work today. We need to incorporate the concepts of agility and flexibility and being adaptable into the way that we do that work. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go. All right, are you still with me? Let's talk about where we need to be. We've talked about where we are and how we got here, some of those lessons learned. We need to be proactive. Most of what got us where we are now is being reactive. We need to be ready, we need to be informed, and we need to be positioned to change as needed and to change with our customer needs, to change with the environmental needs. That means we need to be agile. We've got to be adaptable, flexible, and portable. We need to be where our customers are. We need to be, if we can't be at work, we need to be able to be online. In order to be that and not continuously fall over, trip all over ourselves, we've got to be stable, which means we need to be focused, aligned, and balanced. So stability is part of a trifecta of things that helps us to maintain. It's our ability to resist getting knocked down. Resilience is then our ability to get back up. And sustainability is our ability to stay in the game, to stay in the fight, to endure. So if we want to be a force, if we want to make an impact, we have got to be all of these things. And we do focus a lot on resilience. We do focus on sustainability, but we often neglect the stability part. And like I said before about my own personal journey, being stable has what maintained me all these years and through all those changes. So stability as a key element to your success in business requires mindset, focus, alignment, balance, and center. I don't know if you all ride horses or play some other sport, but each one of these plays a key role in any of those. So the first element of stability is the mindset. You know, to play any sport, to ride this horse, you've got to be in the game. You've got to have the same goal as that horse. You have to understand the rules. You have to understand the responsibility you have to that horse or to your fans or whatever it is. So we need to think again. What I'd like to talk about here is how we have come to be where we are, so the mistakes we're making with mindset. And that is, we've been thinking, we'll just cross that bridge when we get there. So if there is a problem, we know that there's risk involved. We know that maybe there's some process, some software we need to update, something we need to do, but we just keep putting it off and we're waiting for the big crash. Well, here it is. Then we're thinking, pie in the sky, oh, everything's fine, it can't happen, it won't be that bad. Well, here we are. So let's not sacrifice realism with positivity. We can balance both of those. And then maybe the worst of them all is thinking there's nothing I can do about, so why bother? This doesn't stop the thing from happening, it just passes the buck on to other people, which is completely not responsible. So ultimately what we're doing is like this picture. We are driving while texting. We are running our businesses while preoccupied, while doing too much work, while not taking the responsibility to focus on our future and move with purpose and intent, because we have customers and people, employees, stakeholders that we are responsible for and to, including the environment as a customer. So my call to action for you for mindset is to take the leadership role seriously and be responsible and accountable for all the outcomes through product life cycle, through the end user's use of that, through the disposal of it. If you're creating a product, where does it go when it dies? That's all should be part of our responsibility and in our plans. The next element of stability is focus. And again, riding this horse, you certainly must be focused. If you look in a different direction than the horse is intended to go, so if the horse is supposed to go over the jump and go right and you're looking left, you're going to have a problem. Focus in your business, same thing. We are often changing direction with our business, making little corrections, trying new things, new projects, bringing on new customers, but we very rarely go back and calibrate. There's a scientist in me again. Calibrate our focus. So what we've been doing wrong here is just lacking a clarity of vision. We have new management come on. We have new leadership. We might even have a new business owner, and we don't take the time to go back and really dig into our vision. What are our long-term goals? Where are we going? Who do we serve? We prioritize busy work over productive work. So if we're really busy, that means we're successful, right? No, we need to be looking at that vision. Are we meeting it? And being able to prioritize the right types of work. Another thing that we do is care more about the money than what we're actually trying to accomplish. And if all we care about is money, there are endless opportunities. Everything is an opportunity to make money. So we have to know what our vision is and where we're going so that we can know what to say no to. So my call to action for focus is to review and verify, to really make sure that you are living and breathing the right long-term goals and vision and moving in the right direction, and then communicate those to your stakeholders and employees often. Our next element is alignment. Alignment is one of my favorites. It has to do with that connectivity, those underlying things that we can't see. So it's a difficult concept to make people understand and really to solve problems against. But essentially, we all need to tune up our business every once in a while. And when we don't do that, that's what causes us to put out fires all day. We have misalignments that we can't see, but they're because we're not walking the talk, because we haven't got values that are expressed or even believed in from the top to the bottom ranks of our organization. But they're the things that cause us the most problems and where we end up focusing our time when we should be driving that car. It's a key to effective connections. So when you are aligned, you're meeting with the right people, you're providing the right services. Those are then coming back to you because they're being referred to the right people. And because of that, it is a key to efficiency, because you are wasting less money, getting more back for what you give, so wasting less energy and certainly wasting less resources on trial and error and doing things over or trying to do something that just doesn't work, pushing that rock up the hill. So a little bit more about this, because it is an underlying concept that's really important but hard to grasp. The Harvard Business Review has this little figure that shows how important it is to be both aligned with your strategy and your long-term purpose, and also with your organizational's capabilities, which I would call core competencies. So you not only need to align on those from your goals and your mission and your values all the way through all of your policies, your structure, how you behave, what behaviors you're rewarding, your marketing, your branding, and your interaction with your customers, and so many more things. This is what really helps you make an impact. So my call to action for alignment is to evaluate and realign your organization along those lines. All right, everybody still with me? We're getting there. So the fourth element of stability is balance. How do you get balance, and what have we been doing wrong with balance? So balancing is an act. It's not a static thing, and it isn't a thing you do once. So picture this guy on the end of the boat here. There's waves coming. The foundation is shifting. Something might tug on that fishing line there, and he's going to pull back. So that's how balance works. It's a give and take, and it's the constant tweaking and paying attention. It's the reading data and making adjustments. So one problem that we have is that we seek equivalence and not equilibrium. Tit for tat is not a stable strategy. We focus too much on money, so when we are gathering our performance metrics or looking at our results, we focus too much on money and not on the bigger picture. It's almost never all or nothing. There's always an exception. There's always a compromise. So picture right now, you have to pivot. You're brainstorming, you're coming up with ideas, and one person says, we need to be online. Great. People run over to his side and they're for that. And then someone else says, no, we need to be doing go lives or some other method. And everyone goes, oh, great, we need to do that. And then you're at a standstill. Which one do we choose? You don't have to choose. You can always do hybrid things, compromise, negotiate. Almost nothing is ever black and white. So the call to action for balance is to review and update your key metrics. Make sure you're looking at more than just your financials, which are certainly important right now, but so is listening to your customer, understanding their needs, making sure that you are meeting those needs. All right, we've made it to the final element of stability. We're talking about center. And in the past, I would have called this foundation, but as I've gone through this exercise, I've actually learned something, and I want to share that with you. But center is your core. It's your foundation, your core, your center, your chakra. It's what makes you strong and flexible. So what we've been doing wrong with this is just saying, nothing's broke, so why fix it? As leaders, we don't want to take the time to reevaluate our mission. We don't want to take the time to reevaluate our core competencies or look at our customer requirements one more time or on a routine basis because things are going just fine. Well, how are things today? Are they still going just fine? This is a proactive measure, and it is about building that strong core so that it's there when we need it, because you'll wish it was when you don't have it, and you do need it. Then we have the notion that we did that already. That is like trying to have a workout plan and saying I did squats on Wednesday, I'm going to work out next Wednesday, or I did, 100 push-ups and tomorrow I'm expecting to look in the mirror and look and fit as a fiddle. That doesn't work either. And then we'll get to it later. We also know that doesn't work. I can wish myself thin every single day, but it's not going to happen. You have to actually get on the treadmill and do it. And that's the same with your business. If you want it to be fit and flexible at its core, you have to pay attention to this and purposefully manage it and practice it. Speak it. Recently, there was a large magnitude earthquake in Eastern Europe. This pulled a spire off a 600-year-old cathedral, pulled down roofs of 100-year-old cathedrals, dropped parts of buildings onto people's cars like you see here. It occurred to me that there is an element and a relationship, going back to science and nature and the connectivity of things, that we don't address in our business models. So this is the role model way framework that I use to evaluate business and to provide leadership training. You'll notice, and I'm quite happy with the circle part. That is the 5 core areas of business operations, all surrounded by integrated strategic operations. And then it's sitting on what I just have here as solid foundation. That has never sat well with me. It felt like there was a connection, something important missing, especially when I talk about the role model way, which has to do with incorporating community and environment into how you run your business. So this is post-epiphany. There is a subfloor beneath our foundation, our core, that we have no control over. If there's a relationship there, so it shifts subtly all the time. So we can be stable to a point, and we can be resilient, and we can shift accordingly with our foundation. But that subfloor has been changing and shifting more and more as we move into the new global world and digital and all that. So we need to be focusing more and more on strengthening that foundation and how often we review it and our active engagement with that. Plus, as we have seen and learned, these 4 pillars right here, stability pillars, our brand, our BAIL team, which is our banking, accounting, insurance, and legal teams, our community relationships, and our corporate social responsibility, which is people to the environment and to our economy, are all of the things that hold us up during this time. I've seen and heard, and now I've seen it, I'm paying attention to it, all of the examples of companies and people who have a good reputable brand are doing well. People are coming to them. They are who people are looking to for support and comfort and assistance at this time. Companies who have a solid bail team, they, instead of scrambling to figure out where they're going to get relief, have a security in knowing that they have a team to work on this for them, or that they at least have the measures in place to protect themselves. And then those organizations, leaders, companies who are fully engaged with their communities, they're being supported. They're being shared. People care about them, so they want to make sure, like, there's a support local movement that is unbelievable. So if you've been one of those restaurants or small business downtown who people feel for right now, people are donating money to you and buying your gift certificates and things like that. And then the corporate social responsibility. This falls under that element where I'm talking about our perspectives are changing. As we move into a world that needs us to care more, people are paying attention to where they spend their money, and they're going to spend it in places that are responsible in these areas. To illustrate this, we're talking about this little section between the actual organization, if that was the Tower of Pisa, and the subfloor, which is the earth. So talk about that earthquake. If that earth shakes really hard, the Leaning Tower of Pisa is coming down. Now, if this is your business, if you don't have a solid brand right now, you're leaning in that area like the Tower of Pisa. So we want to move forward with a strong foundation built on these pillars. How did that feel? Do you agree with me? I'd love to know. But now you're saying, okay, great, that's wonderful. How do we do it? Well, first thing, we need to shift away from that traditional strategic planning I was talking about to strategic operations. No longer think of it as a thing that you do, and it is a way to make decisions. And to illustrate that, this is an example. The boat is you and your operations and all of the effort you're putting in, and the vision is where you're trying to get to. When you have a 5-year strategic plan cycle, if you are off on your predictions and you don't come back to that for 5 years, you could be motoring your little boat in the wrong direction for a very long time before you change direction and come back in the direction you're trying to go. If you adjust that to just 3 years and have a little bit better control over the metrics and the balance and all of those things, so you're bringing down the variation in that, you're getting a little bit closer, but you still have quite a bit of drift away from your vision and your goals. If we change that now down to 1-year cycles, we have much less waste and we stay on target, and we're going to get there a lot faster. And then finally, if we do this in 6-month cycles, we are continually being lean in the way that we operate. So we are moving towards our vision with much less drift, which is saving us money, saving us resources and energy. So what's the difference? It's a little subtle, but all these subtle shifts make a big difference, right? Just like that foundation underneath us. The traditional is linear. We're going to do it in 1, 3, or 5-year cycles. And we go off in that path and we stay on that path until we hit usually like an annual retreat. It's a thing that you do. I hear a lot of leaders talking about this. Oh, we did that a couple of years ago. We did a strategic plan. We did that. It's an exercise. There's a lot of drift involved, as I just showed, and a lot of waste. What we need today are integrated cycles. We need one plan that rules all the other plans. They're all integrated together. And it's continuous. It's a thing that we do every day. All of our daily decisions are tied back into those long-term decisions and our core strength and all the things that is talked about, that alignment. It is a way to operate. We don't think of it as a thing that we do. It helps us stay on track, and it helps us to be lean in our operations. I've finally reached the end of this webinar. Are you excited? I'd like to leave you with a reminder of the stability calls to action that we mentioned, which are for mindset. Start taking your leadership role seriously and be responsible, purposefully and intentionally monitor and be accountable for the actions and the outcomes of all of your initiatives, products, services. Focus. Really hone in on that vision and long-term goals. What is your plan? Do you want to exit this company at some point? Do you want to hand it off? Even the way that you want to exit your business should affect how you operate and make decisions today. Your alignment. Evaluate and realign your organization along the lines of your values and your core competencies. Are they expressed and activated in everything that you do? For balance, review and update your key performance indicators or your metrics or your balance scorecard or just the reports that you look at. Make sure that you are looking at the big picture and not focusing too much into one thing. And then find, strengthen, practice, build your center. Review and verify and communicate your values, your core competencies, your mission and purpose often. Make sure it's infused into everything that you do. Make sure people understand it. Don't make them repeat it and memorize it. Make them understand it. Make them buy into it, believe it. And then I want to leave you with some to-dos for this current situation. Okay, great. We learned all these lessons. I didn't have a contingency plan and now I have to pivot. What do I do? The first thing I need you to do is start documenting your lessons learned. Every single day. If you do a webinar, write down the lessons you learned from it. Have a better webinar next time. If you try to put a course online, document your lessons learned. Have a better course next time. Determine what your immediate pivot approach is going to be. Don't listen to cookie cutter advice from other people or one size fits all. You have your own needs and your own desired outcomes and your own stability pillars. You can't do what a company who has a solid bail team is doing. You can't do what someone who's fully engaged in the community is doing. You have to do what's right for you and lean into those stability pillars and augment and start filling in those areas where you do lack. And then I would just ask you to please lead by example. We are in a world with news full of bad stories, horrific things. We have a lot of people focusing on negative. We have to create a culture that rewards good behavior. So not undifferent than you do in your household, in your business. As a global society, we need to be promoting, rewarding, encouraging people to do the right thing and to go above and beyond and saying, I saw you, I see you do that, I love it, continue doing it, please, that we want more of that. So I want to thank you for listening to all my thoughts. I would love to hear what you think in return. I would like to hear what I missed, what you think maybe really resonated with you, what you love, some testimonials. But I would also like to offer free calls to anyone who wants to talk about any of these concepts. If you didn't understand or you want to understand better something I talked about, to talk about your pivot strategy and what's the right move for you, how to be a role model leader, any current struggle your business is having, I'm happy to talk about. I was too impacted by this and was supposed to be traveling to a leadership conference in Europe, very close to where that earthquake happened, by the way. And I'm not there. So I have 2 weeks of time that was dedicated to be for travel, and I have time to take calls. So I'm happy to talk to you. If what I said about strategy resonated with you and you're convinced, which I hope you are, that it's time to ditch that traditional strategic plan, and you want to talk more about how do we turn it into strategic operations, I'm offering my strategic evaluation sessions for half off. So now at just $125, you will get a pre-evaluation that will help me to understand before we get on the call where you're at. We'll have a 90-minute call to talk about what you're doing well, what you could be doing better, how to start working forward on that, and then I'll have a follow-up call with you later to see how it's going and maybe provide some more assistance. Again, I thank you for tuning in. Please share this if you liked what I said, and keep using that hashtag role model up. Take care, be kind, stay positive, stay gold.